I'm Alison Mason.
I'm Stanley Bradley, and we're friends turned framily, getting together to tell stories, laugh, observe, and think.
This is the Framily Meeting. All right, so welcome to episode 4 of the Framily Meeting Season 2. We are continuing our series of talking with different members from our family, and we're so excited to have Lauren with us today.
Yay!
Yay! Someone we know from Atlanta, and so this is also one of my favorite topics. We went a little out of order from this season from last because of guest scheduling, and so I get 2 of my favorite topics back to back: belief and then design, which is like so exciting. And in a moment when she introduces herself, you'll know exactly why we chose her for this topic. So hi, Lauren.
Hi.
Welcome.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So start out just by telling everybody how you know us and what you're up to these days.
Sure. So I met Alison at Savannah College of Art and Design, where we both went for grad school to study graphic design.
Yep.
And we became friends really fast. We were like in all the same classes together. And so, when you're spending all day with someone in school and I just feel like we became friends really fast. And we were kind of on the same track too, where we were both doing the 3-year program because we didn't have like a undergraduate degree in it. So we were
catching up for a year.
Yeah, which was cool. I'm actually happy we spent 3 years there.
Yeah.
And then I met Stan through Alison. I was trying to remember Alison, you threw a party at your house and I can't remember. I feel like was it my birthday? It was someone's birthday. Might have been.
I feel like I don't remember whose birthday it is, but funnily enough, I think I had on a green dress. And I think you and John were there.
Yeah.
I have the pictures of this in my head, too. But I don't remember whose birthday it was.
Yeah, I can visualize the pictures perfecly. Like I even remember what I was wearing. And I think I was blowing out a candle. So it might have been my birthday.
Okay.
I remember that. And then, so I met Stan, and Stan, you're one of those people who like I meet you, and it's like, I feel like I've known you forever, and you're just like, you're just so nice and like inviting and great to talk to. And so I don't know, I think we only really hung out a few times, but
thanks. Same to you. You were like super genuine. And I just remember, I think I probably told Alison this. I remember like, she seems really smart. Like that is like, that's like a criteria. And you and John, like, I remember that too. I remember thinking like you guys were a super cute couple and like just really, I definitely remember that. I remember him being super cool and like, I like this dude too. It was great. It was great.
What are you up to now?
Oh man. Well, the kids are back in school. They started last week. So I'm kind of back on my normal schedule where I can get, good work hours in, and summer is chaotic with kids. So working my design job, and then back in May, I also kind of accidentally started another business baking macarons. So I've been doing that too.
So you're like a double entrepreneur.
Yes. Yeah. Man. And so I've been, really just focusing on getting back into work and doing some deep work, not having kids interrupt me every 10 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, when I first started this journey a little over a year ago, you were one of the first people I wanted to get on the phone with because you had been running your own design firm for how long at that point? A couple of years?
Yeah, it's been like 2. Yeah, it was like 2 or 3 years. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know we went to school together. I always looked up to you design wise. I was like, because you had so much more experience than I did. I felt like you just like came in, even though we both had to do that catch up year. I felt like you just like had like a stronger base in some ways. And so I was like, always like peeking. I'm like, Lauren up too. And you were so good with typography too. Like I really always respected your typography skills. And so I remember we had like an early conversation in my journey, and I was like, can I do this? I'm like, oh, okay. Yes, I can do this. And then you taught me some very important things like Divi, which I am now a Divi web designer reluctantly. And it's because you helped me understand Divi. So yes, you are several years ahead of me on this journey, which is, you're part of my like entrepreneurial squad, which I really appreciate.
That means so much because honestly, when you called me, I was like, oh my gosh, she's calling me. Allison like has it all. Like, I feel like I need to be learning from you. So I don't know how much my advice, helped you out, but
A lot.
I know you're going to be successful in whatever you do. So,
well, thank you. That's the goal.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously we have like our Venn diagram overlaps in the design space. And so that's why we wanted to talk to you about design. And we love kind of playing around with the multiple terms, like the multiple meanings of design, both aesthetic, like our actual work, plus like, our homes and things like that. And like, I love that you have your Orange Moss Creative in the background behind you. So anybody who's watching, that OMC is like her brand name. So we're going to just dig into some of the questions from last season and then add a few more afterwards. So first thing, it was one of the ones we talked about last time, was where do you see design in your life thus far?
So that's, like you said, there's multiple meanings to design. So there's like the aesthetic design. And I mean, that's kind of, I remember we always used to call it the curse of the graphic designer, where everything from obviously your design work needs to be perfect. I don't know if you suffer from perfectionism. I sure do.
I'm trying to get free. I'm trying.
Me too. I feel like I'm almost there. So, you're driving down the road and you see a billboard that's horrific and you're like, oh my gosh, why do I have to see that? Or, you go to a restaurant and you see a menu that's just like, this could be laid out so much better.
Yes.
And then, all the way down to, being a homeowner is fun because you can go room by room and design in that sense, and designing spaces. And then all the way down to more of the like systemic design, like arranging systems in your life to make sure you're successful in different areas and, to prevent chaos. So, I mean, I see it in all of those elements. Having kids throws a big wrench into systems.
Can you execute a design when you have
kids?
Gosh.
Yeah. I mean, like physical design, it's really hard. Like doing my job, I can't do, I hear people who work in like, set 30 minutes for this task and 30 minutes. I can't do that. I need like a few hours of deep work. So if I'm not, home, kids are occupied or at school, it's really hard for me to get, that good work done. I want to put my music on, my podcast on, and just be able to just dive in. So it is hard. And then systems, your systems change. My systems, as far as, how I get things done just around the house and in life, are completely different than before I had kids. I was just talking to John the other day, and it was like, can you even imagine like what it was like? We used to get home from work and it's like, oh, where are we going to go for dinner tonight? Or what show are we going to binge tonight? Now it's like mass chaos, with the kids and figuring out who has what homework and what are they going to eat. And so everything changes. But I mean, I still really see that I need to be intentional with all aspects of design. Otherwise it's just not healthy.
Yeah. I mean, it almost feels like I'm thinking about the three of us, right? And how we all have, like you mentioned, like your evening, right? Like I feel like Stan probably has the most freedom and the least need for structure in designing your evening.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. Like I'm like, oh, okay, I'm here. Do I want to go back out? Do I want to get in the bed? Like I don't have anything else to worry about other than what I want to do.
Right. And like as soon as you add extra people, like, right. Yeah. So I can't just be like, I just want to binge a show by myself because I have another person here. But we're kind of where you and John were. We're like, oh, do we want to binge a show? Do we want to go out to eat? Well, not in Florida right now.
Yeah.
COVID.
Anywhere.
But yeah, it's like that. The more people you're responsible for, kind of the more design you need.
Yeah, because it's like, I mean, literally, I'm managing 3 other little lives, sometimes 4. John might slap me when he hears that, but yeah, it's crazy, and yeah, you can easily lose your mind.
Yeah. So then, how are you thinking about? And I know this is like a big question, but how are you thinking about designing the rest of your life? Like, obviously, you can't predict everything, but it's like, how are you thinking like forward about design?
So, oh my gosh, I've always had a really big problem with conceptual. When someone says like, what's your 5-year plan? I can never give an answer because I just can't. It's so hard for me to look that far ahead. And I think kids have a big part in that. Maybe prior to having kids, I could have. But, as far as like my job design, with branding and website design, I very much see that staying like the path that I'm going to be on. I go back and forth with, I used to kind of envision myself having an agency and having designers under me and growing in that way. But now I feel like the more I get into it, I really don't want to grow that big. Like it would be great. I've got Crosby at home who's 2, so he's going to be home for the next 2 to 3 years. He does daycare, but as far as school hours, he's going to be home for the next couple of years. But after he's in school, I can really see that's when I want to intentionally start to really push and grow Orange Moss Creative, and maybe start hiring. Like I've hired a designer on a contract basis, copywriter, that kind of stuff, but like actually have employees to help where I can focus more on strategy maybe. I think as I grow as a designer, I love design, but I also really love the strategy part. And I find that hard to focus on if I'm doing everything, if I'm doing the sales, the marketing, the design, the meetings, the project management, everything. So I think in that sense, that's where I see myself wanting to grow the most, is moving out of that designer role and all the little micro things that have to go on, and really focusing more on strategy. If that makes sense.
100% makes sense, because I'm literally doing the same thing right now. What about other areas of your life? And again, I know you said it's hard to think about that, but like outside of business?
Outside of business, I feel like I'm always looking forward to when things are going to be less chaotic. And a lot of that ties to kids. But then I'm like, well, is it ever going to be?
That's what I was just gonna. You have 3 boys, right?
Yeah, 3 boys. And, they're involved in sports, and, they have homework and extracurricular, which I want them to be involved in. And I push them to be involved in that. But it's always like, is it ever going to not be chaotic? Like I remember I have 3 brothers, and my younger brother recently got married, but for a long time, he kept wanting to wait until the timing was perfect, until they had a certain amount of money and they were on the right path to where, and my advice to him was, it's never going to be the right time. You just have to jump in and do it. So I always think of, okay, I need to take that advice too, because there's never going to be a time where it's like, oh my gosh, I have so much free time during the day and I can just sit here and do whatever I want and grow how I want to grow within a week. It's just not going to happen that way. So, I would say, just to continue, I find that I thrive when I have a schedule, even though I'm kind of more of a spontaneous person. Like when I get my exercise in during the day, when I have time to read whatever book I'm reading, when I get my to-do list done for the business. So having that structure, I think I kind of want to continue to just push myself to have that design, how I design my day, and continue to kind of perfect that, and not get bent out of shape when something doesn't happen the way it was supposed to, because I'll get real stressed out. Like, as you said, recovering perfectionist, like I got to get over that. Like, not everything is life and death, Lauren. You got to stop.
So again, this is a little bit repetitious, but when you think about that, designing your life, right? You mentioned like moving through the world, seeing things, and as a designer being like, oh, applying my designer's eye to this or that. What role does visual design have in, like you said, how you design your day, how you design your space? Obviously, like, for those who are watching on YouTube, I love those bookshelves in the background behind you. But what role does visual design have in how you move through life?
So that's so funny. Yeah. So John put those in for me, and he actually designed that desk too. He made that. Yeah, he's got a little creativity in him too. So, I think like just everything I like to have my hands on, I like it to feel designed. So like, and I'm not as good at this now, but like something as small as Instagram, like having my stories look nice. Like doesn't always happen that way, but I cringe when it's like rushed, or I it's not looking at the caliber that I think it should look. So I think things like that. And then we mentioned like, going, if we're picking a restaurant to go eat at, if I'm looking at the website and the website is horrendous, I'm sorry, I'm probably not going to visit your restaurant. And I've gotten better at that as I learned to let go of things. But I remember Stan Human, and this might be, I don't know if I'm moving ahead, but in the first season, Stan, where you mentioned, I love this, that you said you were talking about matte versus glossy.
Yeah.
And you said that you were matte but not flat. I think that's what you said. And
yeah.
I was like, oh, I relate to that so much, because everything that's like visually oriented in my life, I've never been a very flashy person, but I do like things to be put together, and I like small details. Like when I buy clothing, I don't like things that are like super flashy and like lots of patterns and that kind of stuff, but if it has like a little detail in it that you would really only notice if you're really looking, that's kind of like how I am in pretty much everything. I think that's my design sense too. Alison, in design school, we spent a lot of time kind of figuring out what your design aesthetic is. And I like it kind of like subtle. Subtle, distinguished, if that's the right word.
No, I like that. I think that just thinking about everything, everything doesn't have to be bright and shiny, but just the idea that there's a little something special, I think is super cool. That's
for sure. And so with that, obviously, thinking about, even what you mentioned about Instagram, right? Which obviously, like, I'm a big Instagram gal, but like there's parts of your life that you design just for you, right? Like you said, like the little subtle ruffle or like ruching or whatever, but then there's parts of your life that might be designed to be shown. So what thoughts do you have there? Like how much of your life do you feel like you designed to be shown, and how much do you not?
I mean, I ideally, if I had more of the headspace and time, I would be real intentional about it. Like that's one thing I've always loved about you, Alison. I love watching your stories on Instagram and watching all the projects you do, like that beautiful wall behind you. It's like everything you put your personal touch into. And I wish I had more time to do that. But like I said, I kind of am more spontaneous. So it's hard to have it be like visually, have something be visually appealing, but then also make it seem like you weren't really trying. Like I think that's more my style. So if something's over designed, or if it's going to be in front of someone and it just feels forced, I kind of cringe at that. So I really try hard not to do that. But
which is like the paradox of Instagram, right? Like it's like if you're putting it up, obviously you're trying, but I'm the same way. Like I don't want it to ever look too fussy. And like sometimes when I get to the point of like, I mean, you'd be surprised the amount of projects, recordings that I have on my phone that I have not posted, because I'll get to the end of it and I'll be like, yeah, but now you got to spend 45 minutes crafting this. And that's too far. Like, I'm like, you already spent it all day working on this thing. It's done now. Just enjoy it, as opposed to like taking that extra step to then show it.
Right.
So I don't know. There does feel like there's that feeling of like, yeah, I'm obviously doing this to show people, but at the same time, like how much of my time am I willing to give to showing this to somebody?
Yeah.
It's almost like the presentation of it is almost more than the work of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, when that happens, it's definitely like for example, a couple weeks ago went to a thrift store and I was like, I'm going to a thrift store, and I was like, I'll show you when I get back. And then like I took all these pictures and I was like, I don't even feel like posting these pictures. Like I have a whole folder full of pictures from and like my sister the other day was like, where are the pictures from a thrift store? I was like, I can send them to you. I was like, I'm not posting them on Instagram. I don't have time.
Yeah. Which is so funny, because I think so much of what we do as designers, and even like with the macarons that I make, they're so process intensive. And like I have made for the macarons that I make, I do have an Instagram page, and I like taking, videos and reels of the process, and people seem to really love it when I post that. But it adds such an extra, like what you're saying, Stan, it's just so extra. And do I want to spend, double the time documenting it, or just kind of get lost in doing it? But so much of the process is why I love doing it, and it presents something beautiful. And it's nice to kind of show the process of how you get to that finished state, because a lot of times too, people take, what we do for granted as designers, or, well, I could do that. I could push the Photoshop easy button, but, so that's another, like, I want to show the process and the visual, what it takes to get there. But at the same time, it's, what's your time worth?
Yeah. Side note, how did you get into the macarons? I'm just curious, because they look gorgeous. And then I was like, I want to order something. And I'm like, then you're like, you can't outside of Texas, but they look really good.
Yeah.
So I have also clicked on that trying to order some, and I was like, damn it, I don't live in Texas.
Yeah. Unfortunately, they're super hard to ship. And then, because I'm a home baker, they don't allow you to. But so, and Stan, by the way, you are like, every time I see you like an image, I'm like, oh, Stan, you like everything. I'm like, oh,
I do.
You're like, yeah. So I have loved baking for forever, which I think that's a common thread too, Alison. I don't know if you feel this way in design with designers. I feel like a lot of designers are also foodies and like cooking and baking and that type of thing. So I actually, when we were in grad school, I came up with a business plan for a bakery. I don't know if you remember this. I took a business class for designers with one of the teachers there. And I had a whole business plan. I did the logo, the branding, like everything for it. Menu.
What was it called?
Sweetie Pie Shop.
Oh, I do remember that. I do remember that now.
And so I've always like had in my head that I wanted to do something with baking. And so I had a food blog, and then that turned into the Instagram feed, and I was doing more than just baking. But then I have always loved macarons. I was like, well, I want to try and make these. And they're so hard to make. It's just really hard to perfect. And so I finally perfected them, and people were just like, well, do you sell these? Can I buy some? And then it was around Mother's Day. I had made a strawberry shortcake flavor, and I was like, oh, these are pink. These would be really cute for Mother's Day. And so I put it out in our Facebook neighborhood group if anyone wanted to buy a pack. Like, I designed a label for it.
Of course you did.
Some pretty pictures. Of course I did. And got a lot of response. Like, I think I baked 15 dozen in a couple of days for people that wanted to buy them for Mother's Day.
Wow.
And from there I was like, wow, people love this stuff. And then they do. They love buying, from small businesses, or, a one-man shop, one-woman shop. So it just kind of started that way. And so I'm still trying to, it's definitely not, I really don't like the term side hustle, but it's not a full-time thing. It's more like, okay, I have some extra time to do some baking this week, and this would be a cool idea for a theme this week. And people seem to like it. So
it is cool too how your design mind shows up in your cookies as well, because aside from the fact that like you do these cool like bundles where you're like, for holidays or mix and match, and the little apple ones for back to school. Oh, too cute. I just think like, I feel like you're one of the most like creatively prolific people that I know. Like, you're just here's an idea, then you're like, boom, here's a whole website, here's a whole nother Instagram page. And I'm like, damn, this girl is able to get some stuff done.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know if you feel that way or not, but
I don't. That's
I look around, I'm like, this chick has another business. I was like, oh my gosh, Lauren.
Yeah, I don't feel that way. So hearing you say that means a lot, because sometimes I feel like I'm just scrambling to just pull it all together, and then I'm like, am I doing this the right way? What am I supposed to be doing here? So that means a lot coming from you, Alison.
Well, I'm like, and then you still will like take my call when I'm like, help, I'm stuck. Talk to me for 15 minutes. Help me get unstuck.
Yeah, I'll always answer a phone call from you.
Oh. Well, okay. So now we're pivoting into the new questions, and that goes directly into, what do we do when a design plan aesthetic doesn't work? Which I feel like is a daily type of thing at this point. So that's to both of you.
So mine is more obviously planned. I'm not design in that sense. I think I have like a natural kind of design aesthetic, but I'm not like talented or even trained like you guys. But I'm thinking, and this is probably as you age, I think it becomes less of an issue, right? The more mature you get, you're like expecting it. Just the more you live life, you realize things don't happen the way you want to. Like logically, they're probably not going to happen the way you want to. And I think that like the level of preparation you put into things matters, right? So obviously, if it's something that means a lot to you, and you prep and you plan for it, and it may not even be like, for me, it's not even so much that things don't work out. It's somehow the way things are received. And that becomes, I think, even more so than more of an issue than things don't work out. Because when things don't work out, generally, and I think you two are both like this, I think we have a problem-solving mindset. So it's like, okay, how can I fix this? I think that the issue for me is when I've done something and it may come out fine, but if I'm doing it for someone else and it's not received the way I want it to be received, then I think that's where that tension is of how do you respond when it doesn't work. And then that's when you have to come out of your own feelings, really.
100%. You sure you're not a designer, Stan?
I've been around y'all long enough. I know how to look at a website and be like, that's trash.
We've done our job. We've done our job.
I'm like, that's trash. I can't go eat there.
Yeah,
no, I totally agree. And I think that, like you said at the beginning, like that maturity and getting older and the ability to like just build more flex into everything that you do, whether it be the actual plan itself, the aesthetic itself, even how people take stuff. Like for me, it feels like, and I'm going to use a sports analogy, which is going to feel weird. But like, they talk about like when people are throwing a ball to you to like receive it and like with a little cushion, like that feels like that's what you have to do. Like you have to add a little cushion to everything so that there's not like this hard like reaction if something doesn't go exactly the way that you plan. So you just have to build in that like wiggle. And then I think like for me, like my mindset as I get older is like that what that mindset is for me, like that flex area is that like things not going exactly to plan is a space for extra creativity. And it's like, okay, like this is actually not even a bad thing that I have to react to. It's just part of it. And you are a creative person. Like apply your creativity to this extra little section that is a new thing to think about.
Yeah. Oh man, those are both really good points. Yeah, like totally agree that most of the unplanned things that kind of make you have to pivot is due to someone else's reaction. In the design world, like when I'm designing logos, I always say, okay, I'll give you, I don't know, I forget what I say. Usually it's like 3 to 5 options. But in the background, like I've got probably like 50 options that I've worked through, and I'm picking and choosing which ones I think fit what you're trying to communicate best. And, I think every designer will tell you give someone 3 options and you're not crazy about one of them, the client's always going to pick the one that you're not crazy about. So don't give them something
always
you're not willing to have your name on.
Every single time.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So frustrating. I'm like, that's the ugly one. No.
Yeah. Which, you kind of learn, and that's kind of, with time and maturity, like what you were saying, Alison, as the more years you spent being a designer, you've learned not to give them something that you just would not be content with them saying yes to. And then, sometimes you get the client where they're like, I'm not too crazy about any of these. Okay, well, I've got the other 47 that I didn't show you that I can tweak and push. So, no need to get upset. And that's so hard as a designer. Like early on, designers have big egos. I mean, when you put your heart and soul into something, and design is so personal, like everyone has their own aesthetic. So you spend hours, strategizing, brainstorming, sketching, bringing it to the computer, and somebody just throws it out the window in a matter of seconds. It's soul crushing sometimes. Mm-hmm. And as you have been in that, as you've been in the field longer, you kind of know, okay, can't take that personally. They're seeing it from this perspective. They're not seeing it from my perspective. And it might not work. So let's try something else. And that's really hard. Like you got to learn to just kind of zip it and hear the feedback, take the criticism, and just not take it personally.
Yeah. I mean, I also, I was thinking about, so first of all that's happened to me. And what I realize sometimes is that I'm like, it's not, their reaction is not sometimes not about me. Right. So I had a client where I gave them 3 really strong logos in my mind. I'm patting myself on the back. I was like, these are really bomb logos. And they're like, we don't like any of them. And they were great clients because they were like, actually, you know what? These work great based off of what we said to you. They're like, there are things that we didn't say to you. And so what I've learned is that a lot of times in design and other places, it's like when things don't go to plan, sometimes it's not about me, it's about the other person. And I'm like, either you didn't tell me enough, you didn't know until you saw what happened, that's not what you actually wanted. And so again, it's like, that's the maturity part of it, where you're like, yes, this email that I got where you're like, I don't like any of them, feels like you just stabbed me a little bit, but also I can get over that wound pretty quickly. Cause I'm like, actually, it doesn't mean that I'm not a good designer. It doesn't mean that these logos are not good. It just means that for whatever reason, we weren't quite aligned on the right next thing. And so let's spend some more time talking and get aligned so that the next set of things that I give you is going to be closer to what it should be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. I remember my first exposure to that was in grad school. We used to have reviews. I remember the first, I failed a review. I don't know if you ever failed a review.
I may have talked my way out of them.
I failed a review and I spent like the next 4 days in bed, just like depressed, because it was like, it's the end of the world. My professors hate this. I'm never going to pass. It's like, you just got to pull yourself up and tweak some things. And, I was, how old was I in grad school? I was straight off of undergrad. So I went straight to grad school after undergrad. I think, Allison, you worked for a little bit.
Yeah,
and
I was a little older.
Which I probably would have gone that route if I knew what I know now. But, I was still young and had that big ego. And it's like, just got to build up that maturity and move on.
Yeah.
Make it better.
All right. So bringing it back to framily always. And, I also love communication. How do you all think about communicating designs, plans to your family?
I tell you, and then you tell everybody.
That is accurate.
I do. No. And this is something, again, I think that right, we're all in 3 different places. And I don't have to, like I said, this has been a theme throughout. People probably, if you don't know, I'm by myself. Living by yourself for 40 plus, well, not 40 plus years, but as an adult, you get there sometimes when you just get by yourself, and communication is not necessarily the highest priority. What I would like to think is that when I do, and it's something that I'm always working on, that I'm honest when I do it, and, try to be direct. And I think the reverse of that is also, and it's something you pointed out when you were talking about being able to accept criticism, is really being able to listen to, right? Like a lot of communication is making sure that you listen before you speak, and knowing what people, really hearing what people are saying about something before you, and it's hard, thinking about particularly plans, and maybe not so much aesthetically, but thinking about how you've planned your life to include certain people, certain ideas. And you have to be able to listen to folks to really hear what they're saying before you're quick to speak, right? Because if y'all are talking at each other and they're not hearing what you're saying, like, no, it's not, it's gonna be an issue. And it's the same thing, like if you're both just like talking across each other, you're not hearing what people are saying and you're not communicating. You're just two people talking.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't matter what the design is or what the plan is if everybody's just running their own plan.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or people don't even understand what the plan is.
Right.
And then you forget, and then everyone's all confused.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I would say for me, like to avoid that, the thing I was thinking about when I was prepping is like, how do I communicate a plan? I'm like, with a Google Doc. Most of the time I'm sending somebody a Google Doc about something. I remember the first time I took Lance with me to Atlanta, and we had only been dating for like 2 months. And I was like, all right, you got to meet all these people. And I started like explaining, I'm like, all right, Stan is my friend we started teaching together in 2002. And he was like, looking at his eyes, like glazed over. He was like, what? Like, how am I supposed to remember all these people? I made him a Google Doc with pictures of everybody, how I met them, when we were going to see them, because I had planned out the whole weekend. And, like I said, I'm trying to build in a little bit more flex. So like, not everybody wants that. Not everybody needs that. And so I'm like, not trying to throw a Google Doc at everybody, but there are times when I find that, not even times, it's really helpful to be direct about plans. If you care, right? Like if that matters to you, then it really is helpful to be direct, even if it's like, all right, we have a bunch of different text messages going about this, whatever this is. Let me pull everybody onto the same text chain, explain what's happened so far, what we already have thoughts about, and how we're going to do it. So I feel like my method of communicating is always to be as direct as possible, getting Google involved when necessary. But then also, like we said, it's like holding those plans really loosely so that you then don't get your feelings hurt, but you also are providing enough structure for people to like, I call it like be safe inside of. Like, I think sometimes people who don't operate in the same way that I do in terms of like always want, being really structured in environments where there's no plan, there's no design, it can feel like chaotic, like one of the words you used, Lauren, but like, I think that adding a little structure provides a little safety, but then like letting people flex inside of the structure has started to really work for me well. And then I also find that there's like a lot of magic that happens in those like flex areas sometimes. I think about, I went to El Salvador for my friend Justin's wedding in 2015, and I planned a solo trip to Guatemala after. Ended up going with somebody I met at the wedding. It was just like, I was like, oh, we like each other. It's fun. Let's go together. And that was like one of the coolest trips I've ever been on. And it would not have been the same had I been by myself. And so I am trying to, as I look back over my life, realize that like the flex is not only like a method to like be okay with how life works. It actually is where some of the coolest things happen, which I'm appreciating.
I love that. That's awesome. That's one thing that I would say I need to work on, because I think part of communicating design to framily for me is setting boundaries and not letting, I in the past have kind of, I don't want to say let people walk all over me, but have not set boundaries. And it results in that chaos, and it results in things, if you have a plan for something, it's always going to veer off, which I love that you're talking about that flex space, but at least you can maybe form your boundaries. If you're looking at like, maybe a blueprint for a house, the living room, whatever, all these different spaces. Well, you leave that space for the flexibility. I like that.
Yeah.
But it's all still within the boundaries that you created so that you still can kind of manage things. I love that.
Yeah.
I think of that question too, as far as how do you communicate design or show. People always ask me, oh, your husband must like love seeing all these creative things that you do, because he is in an opposite career as me. He doesn't do anything creative. And I'm like, well, no, I really don't show him until it's complete, because he'll be one of those people that's like over your shoulder, like, why does that look like that? And I'll be like, I'm not done. Which it's like, that's when I don't know, Allison, if you agree, or Stan, even if you agree too, if you're working on something and it's like, you're in the middle of it, but it's not at a place where you want to show somebody, and because they just won't get it.
That's right. You're not going to see these ugly drafts on the screen. Absolutely not. Because you're going to be like, you're a terrible designer. I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, give me another day. I'm almost done.
Yeah. But like people like you, Allison, I would throw, before something was ready to, a physical design was ready to show a client, I would absolutely send some, because you kind of get the process, and you kind of have that foresight to be able to see where something is going, where not a lot of people do. So I don't let a lot of people into that space.
No, that's safety.
But that's also like just in life, like beyond the aesthetic stuff, and like people have a purpose, right? I think that's one of the things I think as we get older, you realize, like, and it goes along with the boundaries that Lauren is talking about. Like, there are some people you have to keep in your living room. Like, they're not going to ever come to the flex space just because that's not where you and that person, where we thrive together. Like, we might just need to be in the living room, and that's it. And I think that
entryway, stay outside the door.
You might just need to stay right there in the front yard, and that's fine. We wave, and that could be our own like deep connection, but that's it. And I think that's okay. I think, getting older, you like you said, with the boundaries, that you realize that it's okay that you establish those boundaries, that you allow for your own ideas and rules about things to be okay. And that the people who really respect you and really love you are going to be okay with that. They're going to be okay with those boundaries.
Yeah, that's a good way to weed out who's, the people you want to be around too, are people who respect those boundaries, and those who don't. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. People showing up, opening closets in your house. You're like, okay, let me invite you back to the front yard. All right. Well, what's up for you this week, Lauren?
Oh man. So I was thinking about what to say for this, but I'm so into my kids' lives that these are two things that were influenced by my children. So one is an app that I've been on like every day. It's called Happy Color. Don't know if it could be a really old app and I'm just getting into it, but I originally downloaded it for my kids because they started getting into Tom and Jerry, like the old school cartoon. And so we were looking for like pictures that they could color, and John found this app, Happy Color, and it's literally, you get on your phone and like, it's like paint by number, but you touch, like there's different colors, and it might go up to like 70 different colors, and it animates as it fills in, and it's totally cheesy. And I didn't think I was going to like it, because being a designer and artist, I'm like, I got to do hands-on stuff. What is this clicking on the screen? But it's so relaxing, and they have a daily picture that you can get in, and after it's all done, it animates like how you colored it in. And
oh wow,
I get on there. It's kind of fun.
That sounds
cheesy,
fun.
And then a show. Okay, have you guys heard of Boss Baby?
I've heard of it.
The movie.
Yeah,
right?
There's a movie and there's a show, and then they just came out with a second movie.
And
it is hilarious. Like, it's the kids started watching it, but I will be passing through the room as they're watching it, and the one-liners in there, like, I would advise you to watch it even if you don't have kids, because it's just so funny.
It's one of those things where it's like operating on two levels.
Yes.
It's like the kid thing, and then it's like, did they just say that?
Right. And the kids don't know, but the adults are like, oh wow, that's really funny. So yeah, I've been liking Boss Baby lately.
That's awesome. Is that on, where is that? Netflix?
So the show is on Netflix. The new movie, actually, we just discovered you can only get it through Peacock.
All the streaming services.
Yeah. So we did get a subscription to that to test it out so that they could watch it. I don't know if we'll keep it or not, but yeah. What's up with you?
So the thing I'm super into right now is a new project management tool, and this is super dorky. Like, I right now am working on I'm like at a growth point in my business. And so everything is business related. I tried to think of something fun, but this is all I got. This thing is called Notion. Have you guys heard of Notion?
Mm-mm.
So it can sit alongside like a Monday or Asana or Trello. So it can do like a project management function, but then it also, I'm finding it that it has, the thing I like about it is that it feels like this combo tool, right? So you can also like, you can't make individual documents like a Google Doc, but you can make like subpages that are basically blank documents that you can type in. And it's, what I will say is it is not intuitive at all. If you open it and you're like, I'm going to learn this for myself, you will fail. But after I watched some YouTube videos, which I learned this week, I really had to identify, like I was filling out a onboarding survey to talk to my new design team. And one of the things I identified is that like, I'm terrible at finishing YouTube videos. Like as soon as I know enough to get started, I like leave it open in a tab, but then I also have the nerve then to get angry when it doesn't go well. And I'm like, I don't understand how to do this. And I'm like, well, you didn't finish watching the
30
video.
minutes of the video.
Of course you don't know how to do it. But anyway, so I watched probably like 3/4 of a video, and it is just really, it is a powerful tool. Once you learn enough, it just has so many different things that it can do. And there's like databases that like link together, and then you can collaborate, so you can share it with somebody else so they can be in it, but then you can also make private sections that you can have your own stuff that no one can see. So it is right now, and check with me in a month or two, how I'm organizing my design team. And so far so good. It's a fun new tool. It took me all of, what day was it? Thursday? I think that's all I did Thursday, was watch YouTube videos on Notion and try to set up my Notion for my new team. So
that's cool.
So far so good.
Awesome.
Stan, what about you? What's up for you?
Grace and Frankie on Netflix. The new season is out.
I watched it.
You watched it? I have not finished it. I'm like, I got like five episodes in. But
it's only 5 episodes.
Well, then maybe I only got 4 episodes in.
Yeah, it's only 5.
Okay. But I'm not finished. I know I didn't finish the end. But I now I'm going to probably go watch all 6 seasons, because it's just.
Had you not seen it?
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah. But I will probably go back and just watch all. It's great. I mean, that's all I can say. It's great.
I haven't watched it yet.
Oh, you would love it. You would love it.
It's been on my list to watch, and I just haven't. There's so many shows out there. I haven't.
Yeah.
Now you say that, I need to go watch it.
Yeah. I mean, like Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin. Like, it's like, how did this not happen before? And it makes you appreciate just like their chemistry is just like amazing. Like, you're just like, how did it take this long for them to have a TV show together? It just,
That's awesome.
They are a delight. Is a really wonderful show. And the cool thing, I always love hearing people say that they haven't heard about it, which means that you get to watch the whole thing all at once. And we had to like wait in between.
Yeah.
Oh, what a treat.
Yeah.
What a treat.
Yeah. Watch that. Watch it. Just lock yourself, pretend like you're working. Go ahead, watch it. Yeah. Well, now that your kids are back in school.
Yeah, can have a little bit of different background noise.
So, Lauren, how can people get in touch with you, get some of those delicious macarons? Am I saying it right? Macarons?
Yeah, you are. Okay. They're not macaroons, they're macarons.
Okay.
Yeah, so for the macarons, it's called Smacks, and that's on Instagram. It's Eat Smacks is my handle on there. For Orange Moss Creative, I'm on Facebook. With Orange Moss Creative as the handle, and also Instagram. We're active on Instagram when I am on there. So I'm on Twitter as well. I wish I was more into Twitter because I like it, but I just haven't been able to figure out how to be on there.
Yeah, Twitter is its own animal.
It is.
Yeah.
You also have a beautiful new website.
Yes, I
which
do.
You should talk about. It's gorgeous.
Thank you for saying that, because it's, I did not get I wanted to get the Alison approval before launching it, but hopefully I'll still get some of your constructive criticism on it.
Yes,
but
I still have that email. Yes, it's beautiful though. Definitely check her out. And she has like all her services on there. So if you want a website, call her. Don't actually call me right now. She's better at it.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, and that's orangemosscreative.com.
All right, friend. Well, thank you so much for joining us. This was super fun. Always love talking shop with you. And we'll talk soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right.
Bye.
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 Support for this podcast comes from Lilacs on York Creative Studios.
The Family Meeting is produced by me and Allison.
Our theme song is by Will Salua, and it is entitled 135th and Coffee.
You can find the show notes on what we discussed, including links posted in the blog section on lilacsonyork.com.
And you can keep up with the show on Instagram at Lilacs on York and on Twitter at The Framily Meeting. You can also now watch us have these conversations on the Lilacs on York channel on YouTube. You can find me on social at Alison K. Mason on IG and Twitter, even though I do not tweet.
You can find me on social at Twice11 on IG and Twitter, even though I do not post on IG. Thanks for listening.
Meet you here next week.